Good evening, everyone. We will start our class shortly. This is the community class on Java for test automation. Share my screen first. Okay, so I'm trying to make this one. Hey, we in our previous class we talked about variables briefly, but we didn't deep dive in there. So today we're gonna go a little deeper with that. We also learned about the main method, the class structure, and also we trying to make this one. Sure, but oh yeah, it's working. Okay, awesome. So we talked about method structure, we talked about first class, the class structure, and we talk about the main method again. And also we did some exercise on printing statements, different types of printing statements, and we did a brief introduction into the variables. And today I want to spend more time on variables and go a little deeper in that. So I have the slides and my IntelliJ side by side. So I'll try to make this a little larger so you can see what we do here. Okay. So declaring a variable. Before going into declaring a variable, I want to talk about variables again. In programming languages, everything we write is read by the computer and interpreted by the computer and then computed by the computer, executed by the computer. So we can use different words for these. So whatever we have in the computer programming language, it should make sense to the computer. So that's why we have different elements of programming language. So we talked about, briefly just to review, we talked about the class structure. We divide, we compartmentalize our code into classes. So within a class, we have a chunk of meaningful code that does one thing together in that class. And that in that class, we have methods. We split what we want to do. We split our functions into meaningful chunks, which are called methods. And within the methods, if we go deeper, within the methods, we use the actual programming language. So, and one part of the programming language is variables. So variable, as you can understand from the word itself, these are the changing values. So we may have a constant, which is, let's say, if you say just 2000, that's constant, that's not changing. And that doesn't mean anything unless we declare it as a variable. So we can have a number, or we can have a text, or in the programming language, we call it string. But unless we declare what that is, there is no way the computer or our program will know what that variable is for. And in any programming language, since it's not going to be static, there will be a user input in many cases. We're going to have user inputs. We have to declare what that input is. For example, if we want to calculate the age of the user, let's say, in one case, for example, we have to declare the current year variable. This is how you declare. This is an int. This is an integer. That's one type of variable. And then we say, okay, this current year integer, here I put a hard value, which is 2023. But most probably in our program, if you're developing a program or if you're testing a program within the program, in your testing framework, you're going to have the current year pulled from time and data library of Java. So Java already has a library. Library means a block of code that's written by somebody already for you to use. So this whole programming language comes with a lot of libraries. So there's a date and time library. So you can use, you want to get the current year, current time, right now, by the second, you want to get by the split second. So there is a method for that already, and you can get that, you can declare that variable using that library. And then you can ask the user to enter the birth year, but that value you have to declare, the input variable yourself. So once that birth year is assigned, so this is the assignment, equals here is the assignment, assigned a value, that means now whatever comes as birth year is the birth year of the user. Here I have hard-coded it, but imagine this comes as an input. So we're going to learn all about these things in our actual course, like the whole full course, what I mean, like actual course. So here, this is just a snippet of what you can do. So what we're learning here is right now pretty much what you can do, not what, not the deep dive of what you can do, but mostly just an overview of what you can do in the programming language. So let's assume you have a form, and in that form, there's a field. In that field, it says birth year, but that's just a UI, user interface. So it has nothing to do with the program itself. So there, the user enters the value, 2000. And that entered value goes somewhere in the program. So where does it go? You decide. So you're writing the program and you're saying, take that input and assign it to the birth year variable. So you are assigning a value to a variable. And then now I can write another method. Let's say this is a method. I can say, so here's, it's easy way. So let's create a method, right? Let's make a public method, right? And then this method is static, let's say, and then it's going to return int, right? Let's say it's going to have a return value. And let's say this method is called calculate age. And then it takes an input. It takes the age, birth year. So we have one input, right? And then we declared our the curly brackets. If you remember from our previous class, curly bracket says the method starts here and the method ends here. Okay. So within this method, since we said we're returning int, so we just say return value. What do we want to return? Since this is age, so we need to return age. Okay. So now there's less complaints. You see, that's the beauty of IntelliJ. It will complain if there's a problem. So it says this method is never used. Okay, so it's a green error. So it says it's never used, but this is red. Why is it red? Because this age variable, I'm saying I'm going to return age, but is it declared? No, it's not declared. So let's declare this age. Okay, we'll say int, oops. We say, okay, so here, guys, what I'm trying to do is styling is very important. Int age, and then for now I'm just assigning a value. What value? We're taking this one, right? We're saying whatever the user enters, well, I'm so sorry, this is not the age. We're not assigning age. Age is not the birth year. Age is this current year minus birth year. Okay, so and then we're returning age. So here's another complaint. So this one, we did not create, like here we declared it, right? It's in the main method, but it's not in this method. So this method is telling me there is no current year within me. So you need to customize everything within this method. So let's declare current year. And as you can see, IntelliJ is helping me. Current year, let's just put a hard value for now. We're not using any methods. We're not going to make it complicated. Okay, so we got an age, right? We declared age, and we said this age will be assigned the value of the current year, whatever we said here, minus the birth year, which is given by who? The user. We have this parameter. We call these parameters. Okay, so we have a simple method now. It returns age, right? So now do we need this method here? No, because we, instead of putting it here, I create a separate method. So I don't need this one. So what do I need to do now? I need age, right? I need to assign age, int age. Let's call this user age, so not to confuse you guys. User age, and then let's say user age, right? So what will be the user age? We want to use this method, right? We say calculate age, right? Calculate age, and it takes one parameter. It says give me int, which is a variable, integer variable of birth year. Give me the birth year. So let's be the birth year. Let's say this user is, you see, birth year came because I said this method takes birth year. Boom. We put the column, semicolon here. Now we said user age is, it's assigned a value. I'm going to use calculate age method, which takes the birth year and does the calculation within the method, right? And then it returns this. So now let's run this and see what happens. You can run it with right-clicking here and then click run. All right, this is very tiny. Let's make this larger. All right, so here the age is returned. But is it easy to understand this number? No. So let's make this more understandable, right? So let's enter a string value here. The age of the user is, and then space plus means like we're adding a value here, concatenation or whatever you want to use here. So let's run it again. Okay, now we say, okay, we don't want to see these things today. If you remember, commenting out is command button and /. We'll run it again. All right, is it clear now? Yes, it's much clearer. And we're just printing one thing. The age of the user is 23. How about this? We want to enter the name of the user too. So we have the name here, right? I want to use this name. So in this method, I don't want to use in this method, the age of the user, let's say, plus name. I assign name here, right? It's already used. Now it's already there. And then I will say is, it's a little nitty-gritty. You have to do this like space because it's going to read. So this is a variable. I can change this variable because that's the beauty of the variable. I'm not hard coding, right? So I'm not saying in this print line, just one thing prints for everybody. No, I'm customizing it with using variables. I'm using the name variable to customize the name of the user. I'm customizing the user's age with calculating the age of the user, right? So let's print one more time. Let's run it from here. You can run it from anywhere. Okay. The age of user Abe is 23. See, Abe comes from where? Name. This is a variable. I declare that variable as a string. It's a string, right? And it printed as a string. These are not variable because we didn't assign these values to anything, right? And then user age is a variable. It's an integer variable. It's a number variable. And I named this number variable. And I said this is user age. But how do you get user age? We create the method here, calculate age, which takes a parameter of birth year, which happens to be another variable, int variable. So birth year, it takes, but we're taking this variable, we're not declaring it. And within this method, how I calculate age method, how do we calculate the age? First, we declare the current year variable, and we're assigning a hard-coded value. This is a hard-coded value, but like I said before, you can use a library to get the exact current year, and so you don't have to go back and hard-code everything or manually enter everything. And then age, now we're calculating the age because we want to return age, but what is age? Is this a number? Is this a text? Is this a Boolean? Yes or no, true or false? So we have to declare it. We're saying this is an int. This is an integer. It's a simple variable. And I name it age. So that's how I declare it. And I'm assigning a value. I'm saying this value of this age integer variable is current year variable minus birth year variable. So you can do all these math calculations. So this is one way of showing why we use variables. So since I'm using all these, like declaring these variables here, I can enter different value here. Let's say 1980, right? I'm using the same method. Now it's calculating, you see. I'm not hard coding this age. The age is calculated with the calculate age method, which takes variables. So that's why we need to declare the variables. We need to decide what data type, int, the name of the variable should be meaningful. And as you can see, we're using camel case. And we're assigning a value, hard-coded value or calculated value. Okay. So we talked about ints. What is int? Int is a whole number, values between negative this number and positive this number. So it has so many numbers between these, so that could be an int. When it comes to double, that's a larger with decimal number. So as you can see, 4 you can copy paste this and then see what this number is. It's a huge number. So doubles are used when you need a decimal value. So let's say you want to calculate the change, right? So let's create a method, public static return int again. We're just doing mostly int now because we're trying to do calculations, right? So we're trying to show what double is. Let's say change, calculate change, right? So we're going to buy something and then int. So what do we need to calculate the change? The cost and what else? Payment, right? So we're taking two values, whatever the cost is. So this is a very simple method I'm trying to create here. We want to take cost as a parameter and we want to take payment as a parameter. And what am I going to return? I'm going to return change, right? That's what I'm going to return. But did I declare change? No. So let's declare change. It's an int value, right? No, not an int value. We want double, right? Double. Just going ahead of myself. So let's change these to double too, right? There's a double value, change. Change will be what? The payment minus cost, right? So that's what so why is this complaining? Okay, let me give you 5-10 seconds to think about it. I'm returning, so I have a return value here. I'm returning change. But what's the change data type? Double. And I'm saying this method returns int. It doesn't return, it returns double. Now it stopped complaining. Okay, so let's talk about these now. Payment minus, do I need to declare anything else? No, because I'm already declaring these in the parameters. So pretty simple, right? So here, I'm going to kill these. Kill this too. Clean these up as well. All right, so let's do this. So I want to use this method, right? Calculate change. So now let's say double, let's say my change, right? I don't want to use the same name, is I want to use calculate change. You see, like it's a static method. That's why I was able to call it without an instance. You're going to learn about these things later. So it's not the instance of a class. It's static. I can call it by itself. So that's the key thing you need to know about static. When I make it static, I can just call the method. If it's not static, I have to call it by the class. Okay. So it's complaining. Why? Because it's looking for two variables, two double variables. Cost. Let's put the cost value 10.15, right? And let's say the payment is $12. Let's make it 11, more realistic. Okay, and always end with semicolon. All right. So I want to now the cost of whatever I'm buying is 10.15 and payment is 11. So 11, I don't put any decimals here, but why am I using double? Because I don't want to mix double with int. When I'm doing the calculations, I want to do it with double only, right? So either I put 11.00 or 11, same thing. Or if it's not, we're going to figure out now. So let's print it. Say my change is, right? Oops. Let's do proper spacing. My change. That's it, right? So let's run it. So what am I expecting here? So if I don't print it out, it will calculate it, but I will not know what it calculates. So that's what I'm printing. So that's the only point of printing. Normally you won't need to print everything, right? Because this is just to make it more visual. So let's run it. Oh my goodness. You see? It calculated the change as something very interesting. Why? I don't know why. So let's do this. All right, it did the same thing. Didn't mean anything. Honestly, I don't know why. It didn't say 85 and it did all this extra work, but as you can see, it's calculating payment minus cost as a change and giving me a decimal value, okay? So as we're learning this again in a longer course, like when we have 4 hours to talk about these things, we're going to learn in maybe more detail on how to make this double digits only, not all these numbers, like 2 decimals only. But now in a nutshell, this is what the double is, okay? All right, let's go to the next one. Boolean and char. Okay, so I'm really a little bit hesitant in going there. So I just want to talk about a couple more methods, a couple more variables, which are, so here, let me try to type it. I have to return, it's not gonna, okay, it's not smart. Let's do it here. Float is one of them. So this is a digit. This is the number 2. So let's, you know what, let's just see. Let's just see. Let's change everything to float because it's decimal too. Let's see. Let's see what happens. Okay, let's run it. Okay, float just complained. Oh, because it says these numbers are not float. Okay. So now float is another decimal value, but it's smaller than double. I did not put it here intentionally because I really didn't ever use float, but I'm just putting it out here because it could be an interview question. So it could ask, you know, one of the 8 types, 9 types of variables. You may end up, you know, saying float is one of them. But for the numbers, you're going to use int or double practically in your own practical use. It's going to be int or double. Okay, so I will stop here. I'm not going to go into Boolean and char because these are different. I may just quickly do the arithmetic operations here. I want to do just a couple of things. So just, you know, you can do some number calculations. I just want to show you here. So maybe I don't need to do the operation. So one operation here, there are 5 operations: add, subtract, multiply, divide, and getting remainder. You're gonna love this. Once we start working with this one, you're gonna love this method. I really like it. There are a lot of tricks you can do with this method. There will be some challenges that you'll be given during our course. And with, you know, for a lot of calculations, you're going to use a remainder in a really fun way. So there are no 4 operations, there are 5 operations. We have add, subtract, multiply, divide, and the remainder. So we're going to talk more about these 2. And then let me just go get ahead of myself. So these are the compound as operators. So instead of, you know, writing in the long way, right here, like 3 plus 2 or the num minus 1, you can just say num minus equal 1. So that's the same thing. So again, I'm just going over this. We're gonna do more practice with these things. I don't want to rush. I want to practice. I want to show you more examples. So like we did today, we learned about the int and double, and we learned it with practicing. You're actually learning how to create a method too right now. Like that's what we're doing. and you actually learned what static means too briefly. But as you see this more often, like you're gonna see this 100 times, and then you're a little bit natural. So that's why I'm trying to, create these quick methods so you can, understand the logic of using programming language. Okay. And then number-based variables. Again, we're gonna talk about these too. Okay, so let's do this. Next lesson, Wednesday. I'm not gonna even go into Boolean and chart. There are more operations with these. I'm gonna move these. I'd like to dedicate the next 30-minute lesson to number manipulations, operations, calculations, fun math stuff that you can do with using variables, with using int or double variables, mostly int variables, and some other practical uses of these within other concepts of Java. Okay, so I will stop here today. I hope you like this class. So see you guys on Wednesday.